Have you got some subscriptions that you pay for but you never ever use? Maybe there are some apps that you have downloaded and you are on a monthly cycle or maybe an annual renewal and you're paying for it, but you never actually use the app. So how do you identify them? How do you go about cancelling those subscriptions to save yourself some money? That's what I'm going to show you in this video. So you're probably wondering, how did I end up paying for a subscription for something that I never actually use? Well, it's not a scam or anything like that. Chances are you have maybe downloaded an app or signed up for something, maybe signed up for their free trial, and they have said, hey, after this 7-day free trial or 30-day free trial, 14 days, we will start charging you. And you downloaded it, maybe you had some good intentions, but you never actually got to use the app. And you just ended up being something, you got distracted, or it ended up being something that you just really didn't need, even though you thought you did at the time. And this is really going to cost you. So here's why subscriptions cost you. Well, first of all, it's a small amount, maybe monthly, maybe annually, and those small amounts add up, especially if it's recurring. So if they are charging you every month, it could be $6, it could be $2.99 a month, or it could be $10, $15, it could be more. Okay, so it's a small amount each month, but that does add up. And so because it's a small amount, it can kind of slip through the cracks. But you never use it. You had good intentions. You thought, oh, this app will be really good, or signing up for this software, this email list, and maybe you downloaded a digital product. Maybe you bought a digital product. Maybe you signed up for a membership, a Facebook group or something like that, and then you never followed through. So you might be thinking, you know what, I might use this one day. Well, that's okay, but in that case, what you can do is cancel the app until you are ready and then sign up for it just then. If you don't do it one day, then you'll just be paying money that just goes down the drain, like a donation to the app. And if you do end up using it in 3 months' time, then for this first 3 months, you won't be paying for it. So that's what happens. It really does cost you because you don't cancel. I've done this before. I got charged at the end of a free trial, and then I didn't cancel. I just didn't get around to it. It's easy to happens to a lot of us. This could be subscriptions for all kinds of things, which we'll see in a minute. But why is this even on your radar? Well, there's been some trigger. Maybe the company that owns the app, if it's an app, have sent you a warning message or a reminder to say your subscription is about to be renewed. And they may have said, look, please check your credit card details. Or maybe your subscription has just been renewed and you noticed it maybe on your credit card statement, on your bank statement, or an email from them saying, thank you for signing up, thank you for renewing. And you think, oh, I really should get around to cancelling that. So how do you go about that? So the first thing to do is to identify which subscriptions we're talking about. So we need to know where to find them and then start to categorize them and ask, well, do I use this? And then come up with a very simple action plan. So where to find them? Well, first you could be looking at the apps on your phone, and that might be a good indication of what apps you're using, what apps you're not using. And one little trick here, this works on the iPhone, I expect it will work on Android as well, is that you can group the apps together and put them into a separate folder to say, these are the apps that I'm going to review. These are the ones that are on my phone and that I haven't actually used. And so that's one place to look. Another one is if you've got a password manager, such as 1Password or LastPass or KeePass or some other password manager. You can look through there and say, well, hang on, what is that password for? What is that app? What is that subscription that I've got? Similarly, if you've got your passwords listed, you've got bookmarks, or you've got them in some sort of document or notebook, or written down in a spreadsheet or somewhere, then that's another place to look to help you identify what are these apps. One is your credit card statement or bank statement to say, oh yeah, I'm seeing I've got this monthly charge or I've got this annual charge. I really, really need to go back and look at that because I don't know what that is for. Now, you don't have to go ahead and cancel them yet, but you at least need to know what this one is for. Maybe it's for an app that you use all the time, but the credit card charge is from a company whose name you don't recognize because they could be owning a number of different apps. Another place to check to identify the apps that you use is on your email. Check in your email list. You'll typically be getting some sort of subscription, some sort of email alerts, regular reminders. Hey, here's how to use our app. Here's what's available on this subscription. Here are some new features of our app. So that's where to find them. Once you've actually found the app, you really want to keep track, and you can do this in a spreadsheet, in a very easy document to say what the name of the app is, what category it belongs to. So that could be maybe it's a finance app, or maybe it's for video or for voice or for editing. It's an editing app. Maybe it's for design, okay? An app like Canva or something like that. What category is this app for? Is it for productivity? Is it for project management? So you really want to classify or categorize these apps, because these apps may be good for you, but if your business has moved on, your life has moved on, your job has moved on, you might say, I no longer need this. Here's a simple one is, for example, cloud services. You may be using Dropbox, or you could be using Azure, or you could be using Google Drive, and maybe you've got all three, or you could be using something else. You think, you know what? I don't actually need all three. I don't need to be saving all of these or saving them to Apple iCloud. I don't need to be saving them to everywhere. And so rather than having all of these different cloud apps, you might say, I'm just going to stick with one. So you ask yourself when you get to the app, do I even use this? When did I last use it? How often do I use it? Maybe I could get by with the free version rather than the pro version. Those are options. And then you ask yourself, well, how much is this costing me, this app? Do they charge once a year? Those are the ones that really hit you, because you suddenly find an app that you haven't even thought of for a year, and then suddenly they send you a reminder message and to say, we've just charged your account for another year. So that's why it's a good idea to go back 11 months on your bank statements, 11 months on your credit card statements, and say, oh yeah, that's right, I'm about to come up again next month and I'm going to get charged again. Now's the time for me to cancel. Monthly, a very, very common charging model where you get charged every month. Once again, it's around keeping on top of your finances. Perhaps it's even a weekly charge, or maybe it's a one-off, a single purchase, and you don't need to be using that anymore. Or there is some other sort of custom charging, but the idea of working out the charging model is to multiply it out and say, well, how much is this costing me over a year? So then we have to ask, well, what's the action that we're going to do? Well, some apps you say, actually, I really, really need to keep this one. Okay, great. If you do need to keep it, then maybe it's time for you to get more familiar with it, to set it up on your laptop and on your phone so that the two sync together. And maybe you need to have the passwords set in a password manager so it's just much easier to use the app. Or maybe it's just a straight, I'm going to cancel this. I really don't need this app anymore. I've never used it. I had this dream, I had this plan, but I'm really not going to be using it. So you just cancel. Or maybe you just mark that app as, hey, this is something that I would like to review. I'm going to stick with it for the next month or so, and then in a month's time I'm going to review it and say, well, did I actually use that app? So once you've got through all of that, why the subscriptions cost you, what the trigger is, credit card statements, bank statements, especially email reminders, you've identified the subscriptions, then it's time to go ahead and cancel them. Now, before you cancel them, you may want to save some data. You may want to run a report. You may want to export data, and you may need to get access to some data. So for example, supposing you have a finance app, you might want to export that data and then import that into a new app, or you may want to export your data from somewhere else. So most apps are going to have a way for you to get hold of their data, well, depending on the type of app, and you can export it so that you can then bring it in to some other app. Now, one of the options is simply to put a pause on the app. You just say, well, I'm not going to update any data, but I'm allowed to, they may give you the option just to pause the app, so that pause your subscription, so that you won't be able to create anything new in it, but you'll still be able to see the old data. Now, another option is simply to close the account. And if that's the case, you may be eligible for a refund, for a pro rata refund, especially if it's over 12 months or something like that, and you're only 3 months into it. Then if you've paid 12 months in advance, then it may be worth asking, hey, is there a refund, or how can I get a refund for the unused months? Now, once you actually go and close the app, you've exported the data, you close the app, you want to remove the app. Assuming it's an app, you want to delete it from your bookmarks, from your favorites, remove the app from your phone, from your devices, or at least archive it in some way, put it into a separate section, so that then after a few months you can say, well, these apps are ones that I have never used, and so it's time for me to get rid of them. And then the last thing is to unsubscribe from their email list, especially if their email list is specifically for people who are subscribers to their app, because that just adds to your clutter, to your confusion, to your lack of control over all of the apps and all of the subscriptions that you've got. So if you have some subscriptions, I would love to hear in the comments on this video. I'd love to hear. You don't have to tell us what subscriptions you have cancelled, but how much money you have saved by cancelling a subscription. How many subscriptions have you got that you've just let them run and you've never had a chance to get back to them and to use them? And so how much money have you saved by cancelling subscriptions?